Hey, everyone. Blake Morse, co-editor-in-chief of Shacknews.com. And today I am joined by Jeff and Scott of Rockapella. How are you guys doing today?
Good, thank you.
Good. So, you guys obviously very well known for Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego and stuff like that. But more recently, you guys got involved with the Big Con and did the opening theme for this video game. So I'm kind of curious, how did you guys get involved with the Big Con? Like, how did that come about?
Well, they called us. I mean, I think they were going after a 90's vibe, and Rockapella was definitely sort of a souvenir of the 90's. So they wanted the approach. So because they had a song in mind, or sort of a direction of their song, and then just give it the Rockapella treatment. So they went to Rockapella.
Yeah, well, when you want the Rockapella treatment, who else would
Who are you gonna call?
Yeah. So like they kind of came to you with like a general like overlay of what they wanted the song to be about. Did they have lyrics or like?
Yeah, they had lyrics. They have it has a whole plot and series. So they sent me a song like, if you can you hear this?
Yes.
So Allie's taking 15 lessons from my guy named Ted, and she's skipping out on bank camp for adventure instead. Big Con.
So that's
so they kind of have the
sent by Alex and the guys, and so to give it a rock. Here's a demo that I made to show them the style.
The Big Con. What she gonna do? The Big Con.
There you go. Did you make that whole demo on the phone?
No, I have set up on my laptop computer with the microphone input, and I do the arrangements right on the Mac. We're using Pro Tools software with the microphone and a piano to figure out the chords and just do it that way.
Sweet. So it was pretty sweet deal, right? They kind of came to you with the song, and then like you guys do your vocal arrangement, and we'll put it in the video game.
Yeah, I mean it was easy because they had their melody-ish and their lyrics they wanted, so it's pretty much just kind of adding the bells and whistles and the Rockapella approach instead of having to do something from scratch, which usually they have to do. So you have to make a song and make sure you're hitting all the right points, and to do an original song on something commercial like that, it's harder. But this was easier, just to kind of, okay, I can just make that Scottapella, easy.
There you go. Scottapella, is that trademarked?
No.
Man, that's cool.
I was just going to say that it reminds me of when we would do corporate events, and sometimes they would send lyrics or a theme about a drug launch or something like that, and you have to be creative on that. But this is far, far more fun, of course.
Are you guys like gamers to begin with? Are you into video games at all? Anything you like playing?
My son was born in 1993, so Nintendo 64 came out right at the right time for him. So he learned to read playing like Zelda and Mario and the Star Wars Dash Rendar. What was that game called? I don't remember, but Nintendo 64 games.
Yeah, I think Rogue Squadron. I think it might have been Rogue Squadron. Yeah,
something like that. We had that one too. Yeah, and so Shadows of the Empire.
Ooh, there you go.
That's
a classic.
But then GoldenEye, which I got addicted to for a few years in the 90's. So my son and I would play it together. I don't play it at all anymore. But my son is a gamer still, so I'm aware of topics.
There you go. Yeah. What about you, Jeff?
When gaming got really more interesting, I had already moved on to other things. But I do have an early memory of the very first video games in arcades and going there as a kid. So, we didn't have a computer that could do gaming when I grew up, and believe it or not, so I haven't really gotten into it. That said, My brother does character voices for games. He's an actor in Los Angeles, and I'm fully aware of many of the Star Wars games and so forth. It's just like, the older you get, the more you're like, when do I have the time to do this? I would really like to. And all the various incarnations of Star Wars have so many different worlds you can go into. So I think that's where I'm headed. It's certainly if we do another COVID lockdown, my gosh.
It's going to be all Star Wars games.
It's going to be all Star Wars. I own a lightsaber back there. I'll bring it on camera if you want.
I mean, only if you want to. You don't. I don't think you need any like Nerd Street cred or anything like that. I think you guys have plenty of that.
Were you alive when Nintendo 64 launched? Do you remember?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm 40, so I had quite a few years stacked before then. So
that was such a huge jump because we had Super Nintendo, which was great, but when that 64 came out, it was such a revelation for my.
I do remember that. Yeah, I remember like which friends had it and which friends didn't. I remember that whole issue.
Oh yeah, I mean the 64 is kind of like, I feel like the bridge between that like classic era of console gaming and a lot of the more modern stuff, because like the GameCube came after that.
Right.
Like, Nintendo went to CDs. Now they're back to cartridges on the Switch. I don't know.
My son loves the Switch. He says that's the best thing they've ever made. He likes the Switch.
Man, do you guys ever get requests for like acapella like video game songs or anything like that? Or have you done any like?
We did it, for what was that game where they play guitar? Rock Hero.
Oh, we were the first acapella group on Rock Band.
We have a song on Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And this big con is the first time we've done anything kind of scoring on a video game.
Nice. I'm guessing it was a good experience, like working with the big con devs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Alex, or I'm not sure, somebody was a Rockapella fan, so that always helps when the clients, like, they get Rockapella, they know what the end product's going to look like, hopefully, and so everybody's on board from the beginning. Makes it real easy.
Now, I'm just kind of curious, what was it about acapella music in particular that kind of clicked with you guys as artists and musicians?
I grew up with my mother's 45 collection. She had a lot of stuff from the 40s and the 50s, like the Mills Brothers, which was a group out of Ohio, but they were huge jazz, 30s, 40s, a big deal. And I loved that sound, that male harmony sound. And then she had like the Crew Cuts in the 50s, which sang Shaboom. And then she had albums by Bread and the Beach Boys. And I always have been attracted to that kind of male harmony sound, that kind of ring, that buzz. And then when I started doing it, it's a lot of fun to make that sound. So I was attracted to the sound. And when I was a kid in the 70s, like Manhattan Transfer started up, and really loved their kind of jazzy harmonies. And then when I was in college, a group called the Nylons out of Canada did kind of a contemporary a cappella thing. Again, I think they had a drum machine, but it was cool. I loved it. So I had my own kind of musical career. I was singing in Japan, got a record deal over there, and sang with the rock band there, and wanted to move to New York. And so Rockapella, which already existed, they started in college, or the kind of the seed of Rockapella started at Brown University back in the 80s. And then they went to New York and started it back up as Rockapella. And they were looking for somebody with my voice part, the high tenor. And I saw it in the paper there because I wanted to move to New York, have something to do, not have to wait tables or something. So, and they weren't famous or anything, but they had started to do stuff. So I saw that ad and sent it in, and so joined with Rockapella like in 1991. And they had just gotten offered to do this TV show, Where in the World Was Carmen Sandiego. So right when I got there, and that's kind of why they needed somebody quickly, because they needed somebody to fill a slot. So I started then, and then the rest is history, because Carmen Sandiego started right away. And I had the Japanese record deal that I brought to Rockapella. And so we kind of had a multi-pronged career going from 91.
Man, that's a sweet deal, just to like pop it in perfect timing, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, man.
And of course, the Carmen TV show is based on a video game, so
that's
it's
true.
All full circle.
There it is. It's all coming together now. You started with the show based on the video game. Now you're in the video game. I don't think the big con is going to get any sort of game show treatment anytime soon. I don't think they want kids going around pickpocketing
That's
things
true.
like that.
Grand Theft Auto, the game show. I love it.
Man, dude, Grand Theft Auto with Rockapella would be a
It
pretty
would have to
interesting
be,
experience.
yeah, totally satirical. That could be really good.
Man, obviously, you guys have checked out the game as well. Like, what did you think of like the game, the Big Con? Like, just
I think
as
it
a
looks
whole?
really. First of all, it looks really cool. It looks like that throwback vibe.
Yeah.
They have a really cool sensibility for it, and
Yeah.
sense of humor. They're kind of coming at it where it's not so literal, and it's just sort of kind of tongue in cheek. A lot of it and funny stuff.
Yeah, it's really cute game. Reminded me of Clarissa Explains It All. Like a lot of the like background
yeah.
art and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, as you know, the 90s were my formative years, so like it has a huge appeal to me already right there. So you guys have been up to other stuff as well since the Carmen Sandiego days and the Big Con. You guys are still active and touring and doing your thing. Well, I mean, I'm sure the pandemic kind of put a kibosh on a lot of that for a moment, but like you guys are still...
We haven't done a show in 2 years, and we have a show this Friday night. It's our first show in 2 years. I don't think we've even seen each other. Well, I guess we did a commercial together, but yeah, we have. It's really been weird how I shut it down because we've been touring constantly since 1991. And some years we do 75 shows, some years we do 30. You never know but to do 0 has been it's kind of strange. I guess we'll see what it's like coming back, if it all pops back into place and kind of feels right. We'll see.
Everybody's hungry for it. I know that. All the audience is like, entertain me. I need Santa. I need everything. Bring it on.
We have a holiday show that we've been doing for 20 years, and so this will be holiday shows, Rockapella holiday. So
I'm really curious how like you got into the like vocal percussion.
Well, as outside the rap community, it was just kind of a party trick until Rockapella and another group decided to give it a go with a full-timer. And so, I give them a lot of credit because I didn't think I could work in that field. But I remember growing up, I listened to the Nylons like Scott did. And I went to Bobby McFerrin like 3 times in Boston during college. And it was all kind of gelling together, groups like Take 6 and stuff. And then it was kind of an inevitable idea. Like, if you're going to have a cappella, well, why wouldn't you do the drums that way? So really, the first groups out of the gate can take full credit for that. And yeah, one day I just was looking for something in that flavor, and they advertised in back then what was a paper newsletter, which is crazy. And I answered the ad, and it all worked out. And that was 1993. And of course, they were in the middle of Carmen Sandiego, and they were going full blast. So I was like rehearsing with them, integrating whatever I could do. While they were shooting the show, I was in one of the members' dressing rooms, like rehearsing between scenes and stuff like that. So I had to kind of get up to speed really fast. But anyway, it's been an interesting life.
Yeah, I mean, just making beats with your mouth, man.
Making beats, but here's the catch: 2 hours. You gotta do it up to 2 hours at a stretch, not like a 15-minute performance by yourself. So yeah, that's the hardest thing I think about it. Like, and there are a lot of people.
And the power of his sounds, and to do that for 2 hours, I haven't seen anybody do that.
Yeah, no, it's really rough on your throat. That's for sure.
Well, it's the closest analogy is like if you've ever played trumpet or trombone or something like that, because it's a lot of the same stuff. So a long orchestral concert, I guess.
yeah, it's similar. Like I'm we'll move on to something, but I'm curious. Like, you mentioned Bobby McFerrin. Like, who were some of your other influences?
The 80s I was a college kid and a high school kid in the 80s. So, that was all around me. And I ended up, I liked a lot of that stuff, but I also looked for stuff that wasn't sequenced and programmed. I mean, nowadays it all is, and it still sounds kind of natural. But back then, if you weren't like sequencing and programming stuff, you were kind of an oddball. Like, oh, it's a band. You know, look at that. You know, that's why you hit the 90s and everybody's in recovery from all that. So I listened to a lot of bass players and bass and drum stuff together. Anytime that worked, and I could go to a concert and hear basically the same thing live, that was really impressive to me, and I kind of soaked it up a lot. And I listened to a group called Level 42 a lot, which had a couple hits here and a bunch internationally. I've seen them live a lot, and just kind of anything that is that kind of organic and funky thing.
I guess what's it like nowadays? You know, you have like people like the you know, guys that make the big con, who obviously grew up admiring you. How often are you getting stopped and like asked about the good old days and things like that?
I live in New York City, so I don't get stopped too much. I don't, that's not true. Once in a while, somebody will go, "Are you Scott Leonard from Rockapella?"
That's awesome.
So, but I think because the age is your age, and those 30-somethings now, they've moved on to having, have kids, and it's different. The generation has grown up that used to be freaked out. They're more mature now, but people still know about Rockapella. So I'm always surprised, because we really are mostly a live act now.
Yeah. Well,
and a lot of the music teachers in high schools and stuff like that, they watched Carmen Sandiego as kids, so they tend to tell us that they indoctrinate kids into Rockapella all the time, because they were all paying attention.
Plus Rockapella itself, like with the Sing Off show and those movies, Pitch Perfect movies and Pentatonics, and it's kind of had a resurgence very much. So Rockapella's kind of ridden that as well. And then people give credit to Rockapella for kind of starting the ball rolling on that. And so there's a certain notoriety that we've enjoyed lately in the past decade because of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was actually going to ask you about that and what you guys thought of Pentatonics. And
I think they're fantastic. They are fantastic. They're unlike like Take Six, when you have that kind of larger choral approach to the music, as opposed to Rockapella's approach, which is like a band with the bass and the drums and the melody in the back. That's like Pentatonics does the same thing as Rockapella, really, the same kind of approach. But they have a girl, which is a little, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Perfect pitch. Do you guys think perfect pitch exists? Do you have perfect pitch, or?
I do not have it. It does exist, but I don't have it. I probably, sing pretty much in tune, but I'm not burdened with the perfect pitch. A lot of people, it's annoying because you kind of have to cancel out your thinking about what key you're in, or if you're flat or sharp.
Because nobody else has it. It's like, it's maybe it's a liability. I've heard that said.
Yeah.
I tell you, intonation now it's a totally new game, because auto-tune has been in place now for a long time. So kids that grow up have never heard anything out of tune. It's perfect on the radio. So I think, understandably, they sing in tune, because they sing just like what they hear on the radio. So the pitch is so much better now. And that's the thing about acapella, is the pitch. Bottom line, you've got to be in tune for it to be tolerable to an audience, or let alone enjoyable. So more and more acapella. Plus, when you make recordings now, anybody can make it sound perfect. So it's not really, it's kind of discouraging to me that way, because it's like, it's such a low bar to get. Anybody can make a good sounding acapella recording now, but back 30 years ago, you had to really sing in tune, and it'd be good.
Right.
But now kids they sing in tune.
Not to diss T-Pain or anything like that, but
no,
yeah.
But show up in a club with bad sound system, and let's see how you do.
Let's hear the Drake songs without auto-tune. It's like, I love the songs, but it's like an instrument. It's like a different, it's a different generation, and so.
Yeah, it's just another tool in the bag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a big deal too in acapella. It's like
Yeah.
it's like before tuning and after auto tuning. You know, it's like those are the two eras.
Man, so it's like, is like Melodyne and like auto-tune like when you're recording now? Is that stuff that you consider?
Well, I don't use it to the extent where you're automatically, but to make everything ring, yeah, I use Melodyne. But you have to really to sound like what kids hear.
Melodyne really changed the whole musical world. Like it's
you know,
not...
you really know, and the TV productions, like for award shows and stuff like that, they've gotten so much better at applying it, because I hate when I can notice the tuning, when I feel it, you know, but they've gotten so much better. It's funny to watch. CBS used to be so butchering with whoever was running that, but now it's like, okay, they get it. It's just gotten better and better. So I appreciate that.
Like, do you guys have any like modern songs that you're looking to cover or add to your roster at this point? Anything you really dig in and you're kind of wanting to get it in the rotation?
Oh, well, we have over the pandemic made a whole Beatles show. Like Rockapella does the Beatles. So we haven't been able, we haven't been together for 2 years. So we've made a couple recordings, but so it's not exactly groundbreaking, but we've committed to the Beatles. So I can imagine some products, some usage of that stuff over the next in the near future. And we kind of used to shy away from doing modern stuff because it kind of seemed like a gimmick, like, oh, they're just trying to do that song because people like Ed Sheeran or they like, Bruno Mars or whatever. But we started doing these kind of short kind of videos just to kind of keep on the social media radar a while back. So we've done a lot of contemporary stuff with Bruno Mars songs and whatever the top songs were we did over the past few years.
Do you have like any like Beatles song that like is a particular favorite of each of you guys?
Man, I'll tell you what. Well, you can't really consider the source material. You'd have to try pretty hard to screw up the Beatles. But I think some of this stuff that we've come up with the Beatles is really great. I mean, you can't go wrong with a Beatles song, and we could probably do 3 more records of Beatles material, but
maybe we should, yeah.
That's good stuff.
Man, okay. But what about a song like "While My Guitar Gently Weeps"? How do you make that a cappella? Do you just pass it?
Funny. You have to do that funny, I think, because well, any song, it's like I have to have kind of I don't want to just do a song just to do it because it was yesterday or whatever. You got to have an idea for an approach to a song that makes it deserve its right to exist, to have an interesting approach to come together, or yesterday or whatever it might be, like you want to make it rockapella, make it special, not just make it whatever another.
Yeah, the acapella world is known for just cranking out the covers, and I think overall rockapella has never been that way. Like even when we were doing covers, and we have a healthy supply of originals thanks to Scott, and I think that keeping that up is good, because eventually you're just a cover band, and do you really want to just be a robotic cover band? It's better to make your contribution. Yeah. Hear me, kids?
Yeah. Well, part of me is as a working musician, yeah, I want to be in a cover band because cover bands get more consistent gigs than me.
That is true.
An unknown creative original.
You're right.
Yeah. But I don't want to discourage people from writing their own stuff. Like, I love doing covers, but I love writing my own stuff. And I feel like, for me, usually my act is usually like a nice blend of both,
Yeah.
Like
ours is too, as well.
Yeah, because I think for me, it's like I need to connect with whoever I'm performing for, right? And covers are a great way for us to kind of share a common familiarity, or like we both like this song, and
yeah,
sure,
yeah. So
that's why Rockapella's holiday show is so popular. We've had it, it gets booked consistently for 20 years now because everybody loves those songs. You have a connection from your childhood to these songs, but then to have Rockapella kind of put that Rockapella angle and take on it, it makes it that much more special. So you're right. I think when people share a song or a connection to a song, the battle's already halfway won.
Yeah. I totally feel that. I definitely agree with it. Just like now it's like, okay, now we're all friends because we both like Britney Spears or something like that,
Right.
Yeah. Jeff, I have another beatbox question if that's okay. There's been this video going around of this Korean beatboxer kid, and it's like the best beatboxer in the world. Like I've been trying to get better at beatboxing for like over 20 years now, and I looked at that video and I was like, man, I feel like I've just gotten to like a place I was feeling good and confident. Then I see this kid just absolutely tear it up in ways that I doubt I'll ever be able to do. And I was just like, I'm going back to bed.
Well, it's a self-taught art, right? I mean, it really is people in their bedrooms or shower or whatever. And there's an example of it where he probably spent a ton of time by himself just loving it and loving the process of imitation and stuff like that of sounds. So, I'm sure that's what you get out of it on some level. And, I have to show up and be in a band basically, but doing solo stuff like that, you can kind of go buck wild and you don't have to finish a song basically. So I have nothing to say other than, that's great work. That's the best comment you can give. Wow, look at that, great work. I know how he did that. I can't really do that myself, or I can do some of that, or I do that better. It doesn't really matter. It's just when it's a solo art, just kind of let it out.
Yeah, like what's like sound discovery? Like, sometimes you just come up with something and then you're like, I'm gonna like hone in on this and like add it to my arsenal.
Well, when I was hired long ago, I had kind of been in isolation, kind of figuring it out, and I think as a result, I didn't really sound like anybody else. And that's still mostly the case. But I think that you reach a point where you have to be a problem solver. Like, okay, we need a different sound of snare drum, or we need a little poppy or this or that. Or how can I, make something less sterile and more organic or something like that. So those are the kind of thoughts I go through because I want to work with Rockapella, not me by myself,
So it's just more about like, that's kind of 909. We need more of an 808. Like,
yeah, I mean, you can get that granular. I remember this is where the brass comparison comes in. I remember trying to get a very high, tight, like a tight sound. And that's more pressure, and it's like working out your lips just like you'd lift weights with your arm or something. So you can't do it for very long when you first do it, but you have to kind of play around with it. I always tell young guys and girls, that your mouth is your own and you make sounds differently because you have a different mouth. I mean, the teeth are different and the size is different. So, you have to work it out, but it really comes down to not being afraid to look weird and spray people now and then.
Has the 2-year layoff changed your embouchure?
2020, 2020, I shut down for a while and I kind of let it go. So I had to work out a little bit more and do it more in my, with nobody here.
Yeah.
And it's come back, but I definitely looked around toward the end of 2020 and I was like, oh crap, muscle atrophy. I better get back in. But the reflexes are there. Yeah, the reflexes are there. And fortunately, the Christmas show doesn't hit as hard. So,
Jingle bells are still there.
Oh yeah, they're always there.
Yeah, don't need to worry about any dubstep or anything like that.
No, the hard part is the beginning of the show, and then I can kind of get into the groove a little more.
Nice, man. Well, man, I love that you guys are still out there and still rocking. Scott and Jeff, thank you for taking the time. Where can folks go to keep up with everything Rockapella's up to nowadays?
Rockapella.com.
Yep, rockapella.com. We got a bunch of albums on Spotify and Apple Music. Go buck wild. The most recent thing was half our Christmas show is on an album, so you can go, if you can't come to a show, which is far better, of course, you can go listen to that live album and get some Christmas right now.
Awesome. Well, sweet. Well, thank you again, guys, and everyone out there. Keep doing it for Shacknews. Of course, go check out the rest of our video interviews, all that good stuff, and check out shacknews.com for all the latest and greatest on video game news, reviews, previews, all the video game stuff. Just go there, get get out of here. Go there now that the interview's over, and keep doing it for Shacknews.